Matt Willis Bagpiper here, and I wanted to share with you guys something I discovered a little bit ago now. I am replacing all of the hemp on all of my instruments, whether it's yellow unwaxed or traditional hemp or black or yellow waxed hemp, any of this stuff. They're over there. They're on the floor now. I'm done. I'm replacing it with polyester thread, 100% polyester thread. I'm currently using Coates & Clark Dual Duty XP. And if you want just a traditional yellow color, the 7540 Goldenrod looks just like the real deal yellow hemp that we've been using for quite a long time. But the great thing about this, one of the many things, I'll get into all of it, is there's tons of colors. I'm kind of an orange guy, so I got orange, but there's green and blue, red. I mean, there's like 60 colors or something, so it's really pretty amazing. But the colors, that's just kind of a nifty side thing. Now, this right here is, so I got my practice channel. I was putting in quite a lot of practice this morning, and I have not taken this apart yet. And I think we've all had that extended session on the practice channer or even on the pipes. You go to take the top off, you go to take your blowpipe off, and the hemp, even if it's waxed, even if it's protected, and you've got Teflon on it, whatever you might be doing, tends to swell, and when you go to take it apart, it's pretty tough. Well, this here, with the thread, see, it's as easy as ever, and yet, let's see, I'm going to get this away from my lap, because, yuck, it's drenched. I don't know if you can see that. I mean, it's dripping wet. There's moisture right there. That's kind of nasty. But it's polyester. It can't swell. It can't rot. It's like wrapping plastic around it. And it's super smooth. It's like almost impossibly smooth. I could put this completely drenched piece back together with no tension at all, and yet it has a completely airtight fitting. Whether it's wet, dry, whatever, it holds up the same way. That alone, I think, is a huge benefit. I'll be curious to see how long this holds up, because I have no reason to think it's going to go anywhere. I mean, it can't rot, so I guess unless something starts living in it, I think it's going to be good. And just a spritz of one of my favorite things here, McClenn's. I'm not paid to sell any of this stuff, by the way. You can get this all sorts of places, but just like a spritz on that when I'm done. I mean, probably needs it anyway after all that nasty. Go ahead and let that kind of dry off. But I mean, I'm using this polyester thread even to seat my reeds. It's got a nice, just enough bite to it that you can get a nice, good fitting in there. You know, it's not going anywhere. So, how do I go about doing this? I mean, if there is a downside, it's that it's thread. It's much, much thinner. It's much finer than normal hemp is going to be. But you can easily get around that by just running more than one spool at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the orange here. I got 3 spools of the same color. This happens to be the 500-yard variety. And I'm going to put them just in a little tin right here, you know. So got some lovely Scotch whiskey. Thank you, Barrett, by the way, for the gift here. And I'm just going to go ahead and drop them each in there. So there's 1, 2. And the great thing about these sewing things, they got these little caps on them. So when you're done, you can kind of just like lift up the corner and stick the string under there, close it down. It's not going to like unravel on you. It stays closed. It's pretty nice. So, all right, get this one going here. Get the third one going here. I find if I run about 3 strands at the same time, it goes on about as quick as traditional hemp. If you put 1 strand on at a time, it works just fine, but it's going to take you a little while. So that's, so I just have my 3 strands here. I'm going to go ahead and get them all out to about the same length. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this whole tin on the floor. I'm actually going to support it with my feet, you know, so it doesn't go anywhere. So, and then just like any normal joint, and I've done a video on hemping before. I'll have it linked in the description below, but we're going to go over it right now anyway. So, now I'm going to go ahead and take my cobbler's wax, black stuff. I'm going to go ahead and put it in my hand, let it warm up for just a moment. That tends to make it a little less crumbly. So, let that warm up for just a little bit more. It's probably 77 degrees in my office without the AC running right now, so it's not taking very long. Okay, so that's pretty good. I got the 3 strands together. Again, all 3 spools are just in a little tin down here. Mine happens to be a whiskey one. I'm going to run the first, I don't know, 18 inches, 2 feet across the cobbler's wax. I'm kind of picking different areas. I'm just holding it between my thumb and the wax. You can use, a lot of them come with a little piece of leather. You can use that if you want. There's other ways to do this. I don't mind my hands getting a little dirty. And you want to do it several times until it's nice and black. You shouldn't see really any color on there. See, it's just black, 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 oh, orange. So this is enough wax to get us started. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my piece, my chanter here, and I'm going to lay it kind of, the light, I'm going to lay it kind of vertically across the joint. It's kind of tough to see. There you go. I'm going to hold it in place, and now I'm going to wrap it a couple of times with a couple of broad, let's see, can you see that? Again, it's kind of tough. There you can see the string, kind of holding it in place. I'm just going to point it. I'm not going groove by groove. You can do that. You know, you got to do what works for you in your world. This works for me. I don't feel the need to do that. And now we're to the orange, so we can kind of see it a little bit better now. So you can see I'm taking kind of nice wide paths around. But what I want to make sure to do, I'm at the bottom of the joint now. And see that nice? I'm going to put a little bit more on so you can really see what I'm talking about here. I don't want the thread here to go below that threaded part, that grooved part. You want a nice little gap there. I don't know if it needs to be that big, but that just happens to be where the threads ended, or the grooves ended on this section, so I'm going to go with it. It can start splaying down. It can, the string will start, whether it's string or hemp or whatever, will start working down. It'll form like this, like black on there. And then when you go to put it in your stock, it's not going to seat all the way, which can cause any number of problems, from not fitting well to not looking as good, to possibly even airflow issues if it's really getting out there. The stock is really a very specific length for the diameter if it's a well-designed instrument. So we're going to go ahead and keep that clean. Get some of this stuff out of my way. So I'm going to spend just a little bit of time down here at the very bottom, make sure that I got a good little bit all nice and set up down there. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and set this. I'm getting these threaded for my Robbies. These are the Robertson replicas that McGilvery and Dunbar are making. Absolutely phenomenal instrument. It has quite a bit smaller stocks in diameter, though, than my Hendersons that I play. So, and we're nowhere near a good fit yet, which is just fine. I just want to have my stock ready here to test fit. So now I'm going to keep wrapping, and I'm going to kind of try to keep it up here so you can see it. Again, I'm putting the thread on 3 at a time. You can see it's going on just fine. Probably hear the little spools spinning around in the tin down there. But that's fine. And again, I'm using some pressure. I'm kind of cutting the thread into the other thread on here. I'm not just like willy-nilly, like, I'm using some force. And you can see I kind of actually have it wrapped around my fingers. Can you see it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, over here, kind of wrapped around the fingers. Nice bit of tension, and thread's pretty strong. I don't find this stuff snaps anywhere near as readily as traditional hemp does. So I'm going to keep on wrapping. All right. Killing you guys with long videos. Sorry about that. But let's see what we can do. Got that going in there. And it's starting to get a nice little fit. I can start to actually hear it. So now I'm going to go, so notice I kind of started at the bottom. I went largely to the top. And now I'm going to kind of fill in the middle. I like doing this because I don't like having like a big ball in the middle. A lot of hemp joints or threaded joints end up kind of looking like that. I'd rather straight, or maybe even just slightly hourglass in shape. So now I'm going to kind of fill in the middle. Again, kind of cutting the thread in using a little bit of tension. I can feel the thread going through my fingers. I do this often enough. I got some calluses. You might want to, wear gloves. If you don't do this very often, it could tear your hands up a little bit. All right, so we got it on there pretty good. Let's go ahead and take another test fitting here and see. Oh, see, it's fitting pretty darn nice right now. I think we can use just a little bit more. So the other thing I'm finding with thread versus hemp is this is thread. This is not yarn. All of these hemps are yarn. There's little tendrils, and those do great to kind of fill in the little air gaps and everything else. But what it does is that air is in all of the thread, all of the joint. It's all filled with air. So over time, every one of you guys has experienced this. You have to add a lot more hemp over the, 3 days later, your joint is loose. 3 days after that, it's probably loose again. You're going to have to keep doing that. This thread here doesn't pack as much air because it's just what it is. So I find I really only have to adjust it maybe a week later, and even then by much less. So now it's getting a good fit. I don't want it too snug. It is the chanter. Notice I always say fist to fist and twist. when you're dealing with channers, you don't want to ever grab it down here. This is a blackwood channer. I'm not going to snap this guy. So, all right, so the, I guess, other con, if there is one, it tends, this string, to want to unravel a little bit more. So I find I do finish it off with a double half hitch. Normally with hemp, I just, just kind of snapped it off and let, it could kind of stick to itself. So tied just a little bit of a knot there. It's kind of like a double overhand knot. And then I'm just going to, it'll still snap. I don't feel the need to do anything, fancy. I don't have a knife ready here, do what works for you in your world. And just real quick, everybody, something I mentioned briefly but didn't follow up on. I don't use Teflon tape. I don't use Teflon tape on any of my joints. In fact, the only place I do use Teflon tape are on threaded fittings, like where my mouthpiece attaches to the blowpipe, or where, say, you have easy drones or similar reeds where they're threaded into the bodies. The same places you would use Teflon tape on a plumbing fitting, I'm happy to use on a bagpipe. But on a threaded, this case fitting, one with string, actual thread, whether it be hemp or whatever, I feel pretty strongly about not using it. I know there's a lot of opinions out there. But coming also from other woodwinds, Irish flutes in particular, there's a lot of manufacturers out there that won't warranty their instrument if there's any hint of Teflon tape on them. So that's something to keep in mind. Teflon tape, super slippery substance. You end up putting a lot more torque on that joint than you think. We largely get away with it in the bagpipe world, in my opinion, because the pieces we're dealing with are all really thick. There's a lot of wood there, so it ends up not really being a problem. But I've never experienced the threading it talks about. You can get a similar effect using any sort of string, any of the stuff I've done. There's no grain in Teflon that, in my opinion, would allow for that behavior to occur. And I don't want to have that much tension on my joints. And if it does crack, I've had to do some repairs on my own. And to get all of the little shreds of Teflon out of a joint before you can properly, whip it, repair it, however you're going to do, it can take the better part of an afternoon just to get a few little hairs of Teflon out of a joint without having to crack it open even further to try to get it. So thoughts on Teflon tape real quick there, because I know it's a huge thing in the bagpipe world. Again, do whatever you need to do. If you want to use the thread and put Teflon over it, it's your bagpipe. I don't recommend it, but do what works for you. And now, just to finish off the joint, you can use any number of products. Now, I absolutely love these pipes here, but it is a modern pipe. I don't necessarily think it's going to go down as an heirloom, even if it does play really well. But if you do have an heirloom set of pipes, you might want to use a product like this. This is Dr. Slick to finish this off, just to give it a nice seal, a little bit of lubrication. This is made from slippery elm bark and some other stuff that will in no way harm the wood of your pipes. I, however, want my pipes, having the smoothest, nicest fit on there I can, even if occasionally it gets a little messy and I have to clean it up. And of course, I didn't put this product in the right place, so pardon me. As I take a look, there it is right behind the computer. I go with, well, the label's gone because this is an old container, hemp seal. You can get it all sorts of places, but it's nothing fancy. If you ever installed a toilet, it's just the wax ring the toilet sits on. So I've refilled this thing 9 or 10 times. If it's something different from the manufacturers, I'll happily correct the video there. But if it is, I don't know how it's different because it looks exactly the same and it works exactly the same in my world. So, all right, so I'm just putting a little bit on. You just put a little on your finger. I just kind of go around the joint and kind of deepens the color a little bit. I'm not really doing this for waterproofing because, again, this is polyester. But it does kind of help keep the thread together, and it helps make sure you get a nice airtight seal between the pieces right here. So I got a perfect fit right there. It fits like a dream. I love it. I think it works great. I'm just going to get a little paper towel here and clean up the little bit of mess that's around the bottom. If there's too much, again, you can spritz a little McCleanse on here that can help. I've never seen that really hurt the wood at all. Sure, there's tons of other products that would work. Do what works for you. But so there we go. So we have a threaded joint done with polyester thread. It's smoother. It's watertight. It will not swell. I can't imagine it's going to rot if it's not natural. But if I need to adjust the video in another year or 5, I will. And if in another year or 5 I haven't had to redo another joint on my instrument, that'd be even better. So go ahead and put this back in here. And It's fitting great. But I've done all the joints on here. You can tell by the bright orange, you know, that it's been redone. Again, you don't want it bright orange. It comes in every color of the rainbow. You can get it in white, black. Again, there was that Goldenrod color. It was, what was it, 7540. And that one ends up looking great. In fact, what I like to do, so I got my whole bagpipe right here. On the middle joint, I actually like to do this one in a different color. Even when I was using traditional hemps, I would often string one thing of unwaxed yellow and a thing of black waxed on this joint, just so when the pipes are completely apart, I can always tell which one's the middle without having to stamp anything or remember some other part. I like to keep my instrument completely together. And then the reed as well, I go ahead and use the same color thread. So when the reed's out, again, real super easy to know which one is your middle joint. But again, with that thread in there, it's a nice snug fit. It's not going anywhere. And you can see, I mean, you can't tell that's not real hemp. I mean, once you get a little bit of that blackwood oil or whatever it might be on there, it looks great. And it would fool anybody if you just want the benefits of this, but you're not going for some sort of fashion color. But like in my pipe band, I've encouraged everyone now to use whatever color they want. It's a nice way they can kind of personalize their instrument for anything they want. But I've redone every bagpipe you see over here with the thread now, every joint, including that Highland pipe, which had like 23 joints to be rethreaded. But it worked great, and every joint is completely airtight. One of the things I like to do when I'm testing a joint is, I call it the suction test. I like to take it out here, and I'm testing, in this case, I'm testing both the top, making sure that the bush here is airtight to the wood, but also making sure that this joint right there is airtight. So I just put my finger over the end. I'm sure you can hear that. Completely airtight, and yet I don't have to have this super snug. It's not about, you know, I don't want anything to be risking breaking or cracking. And that's the other thing about the thread. It's so thin. Let's say it's just a little bit loose. You can add just a little bit of thread. In fact, I didn't redo this one completely. I originally had this one done in blue and white because I was feeling a little different. But I ran out of that color and I decided to do it in orange. But it got just a little bit loose. And you can see I added just one single strand at a time of the orange over the blue and white. So yeah, you can make some patterns. It's kind of a pain. I'm not going to do that anymore. But you can get exactly the fitting you want, the attention you want on the joint, and it works great. So, doesn't swell. If you put it on 3 strands at a time, it goes on just as easily as hemp. I use all the same processes and procedures. I wax the tenon itself with beeswax. I wax the thread with cobbler's wax. Put it on, put a little bit of either hemp seal, or if you got an older set of pipes, the Dr. Slick. But the fact that it's not going to swell with moisture, guys, especially if I had an heirloom set of pipes in my life, I would immediately redo it with this. If somebody has a negative onto why they think this might be dangerous, I'd love to hear it. But it's soft, it's smooth. You don't really need this for the slickness. I just want to make sure that I get a good airtight fitting. But many of the joints in my Highland pipe, I did not finish off with this, and it's working fine. So I can't imagine that the thread itself is doing any damage to the wood whatsoever. I've seen no sign of wear, tear, or anything else. So there you go. That's pretty much it. I recommend just give it a try. It's like $2.50 a roll or $3 a roll or something. You can just buy one roll. Redo your practice chanter. Redo your practice chanter. Live with your practice chanter. Where did I put that guy? Because it was kind of, there it is. Redo your practice chanter. See if you like it. See if when you're at the end of a practice session, there's even, yuck. No swelling. I don't have to worry about it. This is a wooden top. This is not a plastic top. It is lined, which is nice, but it is a wooden top. This is wood, though. I don't have any cracks here, and I don't think it's going to crack. I'm going to go ahead and leave this apart because it needs to dry out. So, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. This video is probably long enough already, but I encourage you to give this a try, and then let me know what you think. Give a comment below if you give this a go, and let me know how it works for you in your world. So, again, I'm Matt Willis, Bagpiper, and I look forward to hearing from you. Cheers, everybody.